just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
Coach, super special Profiles Coach podcast today. Super special because we're going to focus on something that we talk about a lot here, which is the Mindscan thinking tool. It's one of the primary lever points we have when we start working with clients to give them more awareness. Awareness, as we know and we talk about often, is the starting point for everything. It's not everything, but it's a starting point. And this tool we're going to dive into today is a great way of understanding where our thinking patterns are. It almost acts like an early warning system in order that we can understand what type of actions, and therefore results, we're going to get and the quality of our life impacts. And the Mindscan has been around for a long time, and it was originally called the Hartman Value Profile, and we can dive into that. But it was nominated for a Nobel Prize based on the research and back in the early 70s. So it stood the test of time. And it's something that we're often used. And me and Coach Josh, we've just retaken the Mindscan here today. As we talk about this at the end of November 2023 here. And we've done this a bunch of times. I thought it'd be really cool to go through that, show everyone our mind scans and see how they change and give each other a little review as we do this. And for those of you that are not watching the video, please go watch the video or watch this as a supplement that we'll bear in mind for the people that aren't watching the video. We'll try to explain it as we go through, but being able to see the Mindscan tool up on screen, I think it's going to be very powerful to do that. So if you can't do it right now, please go back and do it, or reach out and we'll be happy to send you the Mindscan and how that looks like, an example of it to supplement this as well. And so I thought we'd dive straight in. Sound good to you, Coach?
It does. I'm excited about this today.
All right.
While you're doing that, maybe just one additional point. I think a lot of people have taken assessments or hear assessments, and one thing I wrote down in your intro there was the thinking patterns, right? A lot of assessments, I think, deal with personalities or, I think of strength finders that highlight what you're really good at. And this shows what we're valuing, what we're paying attention to in our thinking, and what our strengths and clarities are. So I'm sure we'll get into this, but I just want to make that point of distinction with maybe some of the other assessments out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's tons of great assessments out there. I've done a whole ton myself, and they add a lot of value. I think what really stands Mindscan out, as you said, it's a comparison of ourselves, our thinking patterns in the moment. So it changes, it moves around, and we often recommend that you redo Mindscan often, and it's either quarterly, every 6 months, at least once a year. And if you're moving quickly in whatever you're doing, then it will change more. And so understanding what it is really important. And even if you know how, if you've done it before, redoing it is always going to give you a different view because you're moving the statements around, and we'll come to that in a way that you actually believe to be true in the first place. And so Mindscan kicks out a whole bunch of information, usually about 18 to 20 pages of stuff. And what I'd like to draw our attention to as a starting point is to really understand why thinking is important. So you might say, well, it's obvious that thinking is important, but in context of what we want is more tools to understand what we're not realizing we're thinking. So if I think about the cycle of success, it starts with what we believe. So number one is what we believe. And our beliefs impact number two, which is our thinking, which we can measure through the Mindscan. Now, beliefs come up in coaching conversations. They come up as you start to really astute and have your sensory acuity higher and higher. You can notice them quicker and quicker. And it's something me and Coach Josh will do as we're working with our clients on a daily basis. But understanding the thinking patterns through the Mindscan is powerful because you can get there quicker. And so what we believe impacts what we think, and what we think impacts number three, which is what we do. So action. So one is belief, two is thinking, three is action. Our thinking impacts our action. Now, our action, of course, creates four, which is results. thinking, excuse me, beliefs, thoughts, actions, results. Beliefs, thoughts, actions, results. And there's a number 5 which cycles back to number 2, to number 1 rather. And the reason why we want our results is because we want certain feelings. We want a quality of life that we've defined. And that essentially underpins what we believe. Because when we look at results, it's like, okay, I want to double the revenue of my business, or I want to start a new business, or I want to get to the next level in my career. All those things, it's not the thing itself that you want, it's how it makes you feel, or how you think it's going to make you feel to those results. So recap, those 5 things. Number 1 is what do we believe equals what we think. Number 2, number 3 is the actions that we take. Number 4 is the results we get. And number 5 is how we feel or the quality of our life based on the results that we get. And then that reinforces our beliefs negatively or positively. You in so far, Coach?
I thought that was lovely the way that you framed it. That was great.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you very much. And so even without the mind scan is powerful because now we've got a new frame of looking at things. We can understand our thinking, we can impact our results, impact our actions, impact our results. Now, most people, so think about those 5, so beliefs and thinking, it's internal. It's in our head. Actions and results are external. That's where most people go. Take an action in the external world, get a result in the external world. You do something, get something. So most people will go into the external world because that's what we see. Change your actions, change your actions, change your actions. Right, true. If you change your action, you will change your results. But overriding your actions is basically saying, I'm going to rely on my willpower to create the life I want. Willpower, sometimes there for your support. Sometimes that guy just does not show up, won't get out of bed. So a much better approach is really understanding what we believe and what we think and start to shift that, which will automatically shift our actions, results, quality of life. When Dr. Hartman designed the Hartman value profile, he set out to say, I'm going to study and understand what is good. What is the value of good? How can I create some scientific and mathematic specificity around that? And that's where the Mindscan came from. And when you do a Mindscan, you're going to get all of this detail. When you work with your coach, you'll be able to get all this sent to you, can work through it. What I wanted to draw your attention to for today is what a Mindscan graph does look like. What a Mindscan graph does look like. Now, this is a sample. This is not mine. And oftentimes when I'm showing people, I show the Mindscan graph and people get so obsessed with trying to figure out what it looks like. they're not understanding how to be looking at it, right? So 3 ways of thinking. So number 1, and you really want to write this down if you can. Number 1 is the relator. So right here, I'm just pointing to that if you can see that, okay, relator. Relator equals people. So number 1, relator equals people. And then number 2 is the doer. The doer equals action in innovation. And number 3 is the thinker. And the thinker is structure and process. So 3 to think about here. And if you don't learn anything else, take this because you can apply it immediately. People think in these 3 primary ways. Number 1 is the relator. Number 2 is action in innovation. And it's through the doer. Number 3 is the thinker, and that's structure and process. So those 3 ways. And then we can look at that in 2 different worlds. So these 3 at the top here is the external world. And these 3 at the bottom here are the internal world. So 3 times 2 actually gives us 6 ways that we can measure this. And we will measure in 2 ways. We'll measure this scale, plus 10 to minus 10. And this is about how much value we perceive in a certain area. And it's a continuum. So it's not in and out. It's not yes or no. It's a continuum. So it's one extreme. We overvalue something, or we can go all the way through the middle to the balance and all the way to the other side of we undervalue, discount something completely. And that's true for all 6 areas. And then we can also measure on the size of the circle. Now, this circle denotes how zoomed out you are or zoomed in a certain area. So you can see at the bottom here, we've got this scale of the different size of the circles. The colors don't mean anything. They just show you there's a different size. The bigger the circle, the big blue circle is zoomed out all the way. So if the pie is 100%, You can see it if you have a big blue circle in that area, meaning you can see everything that's possible in that particular area of thinking. And all the way down to the small mauve circle on the right-hand side, which means you can probably see 10 or 20% of what's available in that totality of that circle. Anything you'd add onto that, Coach?
Clarity is super clear. I maybe just one thing to the biases or the dimensions with the relator, doer, thinker. Another way to think of that is intrinsic, extrinsic, and systemic. So intrinsic, something is good because it is, just because it exists. That's the relator, right? Like people you can define intrinsically. Doer, results, action, extrinsic results, and then systemic is more the process, procedure, rules, structure, systems.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 in those different areas, plus the external, internal. We've got 6 different places. So, okay, we're going to go through mine here real quick. I'm going to start to scroll down. Da, 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 da. This is always the most exciting place, like a kid in a candy shop. Coach, how many
The
mind
bubble
scans do you think
chart.
that you've seen?
Ooh, I'd say it's probably pushing 500 at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of damn mind scans. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen two the same. I've seen certainly ones that are similar, but never two the same. And so there's so much nuance to get into here. So perhaps over to you on this, Coach, because this is my mind scan live from today. What might you see here, and what do you want to point out for me? And I can draw on it if it's helpful here.
Yeah, the first thing that sticks out to me is your highest clarity is also your leading bias in your external world. So I'm looking at this big blue circle that tells me you can list all the ways to get things done. You're innovative, you have ideas in the practical nature of things. And because it's your circle nearest to the positive 10, it's not all the way up there, but it's nearest to the top. This might be the leading way in which you think. How might I get results from this? How do we get results? What sort of actions can we take? Let's go, go, go. Let's take action. Let's get new results here. So that is a great strength of yours, right? Maybe Coach Nick, tell me how that would be a strength of yours. If you were to leverage that, why is that a good thing to have that bias and that clarity in that dimension?
People with high practical thinking and high clarity tend to move forward pretty fast, take a lot of action, and therefore get a lot of results. And the potential, that's going to be certainly a strength. Potential downside of that is that they move too fast and take too much risk on and never follow through on completing something. So they go create something, but then don't create some structure around it such that it can't be repeated. And then on to the next one, on to the next one.
Which is a great reminder. Which one of your circles is the lowest of the three externally?
Structure is the smallest and the place that I favor the least.
Mm-hmm. And so what you just said, right? Say you find an action or something that gives you results. Might it behoove you to think about how you can duplicate that or how you can set up a structure around it so that you continue to get results and maybe can remove yourself from the vast majority of the action. When we're in doer mode, we've talked about this a lot, right? In execution mode, there's not a lot of time for creativity or thinking through ideas to help get better results. So I think you listed, pretty succinctly. There's two sides to every coin here, right? Great strength to be in doer mode. You're going to get results just because of your high action nature. And then the thing to be aware of, that's my takeaway from the Mindscan, it's just an awareness tool. We don't have to fix anything. We're not addressing anything. Just be aware that when you get those results, maybe think of, as your tendency might be to look at the downside of having systems and structures. Think of what could be the upside. What could that mean for your business? What could that mean for where you want to go if you were to leverage and maybe raise that circle and structure up a little bit?
And what's really intriguing for me right now is that this is very similar to all the mind scans I've done in the external world. And
the ones that you've taken, is that what you mean?
Yes, that I've taken. Yeah. And I've probably taken 5 or 6 over the years, maybe more. And it's apparent every single time that my practical thinking is my preference and structured thinking is not. Now, they've moved around in terms of exactly where they are and the size of the circles a bit. This is pretty stark. And it's intriguing for me right now because I'm certainly in a place where I think of myself as focusing more on the structure. And so if I can prove that out to myself, that is taking action into the structure. So again, to your point, it's not something that needs to be changed, I'm looking at this going, I'm taking action towards the structure. So I'm taking action that I am thinking about how can I repeat things rather than how can I just get things done. So it's intriguing for me to have it laid out like this and also supportive at the same time.
Yep. And then tying it to what you actually want, right? So there could be a conversation that we have about your business. Like, what are you going through right now? What are, let's do some visionary stuff. Wave the magic wand. That's how we apply Mindscan to, real life results here. Okay, this is great. Like, what do I do with this though? How do I use it?
Yeah. Yeah, like an early warning system, right? It's like, okay, what's important to me? Where am I thinking right now? I'm thinking about taking action. Okay, how much structure right now am I thinking about? Is that important? And it is. It's important to me right now. So I feel good about where that is. What else might you say about my mind scan here, Coach?
Yeah, so great understanding and clarity with people, as we quite often see with good clarity. Just note what that means, right? You have a great ability to read people well. However, when you see people clearly, you may move on because you assume other people see as clearly as you do. And quite often, I love this. It's just like slowing down and spending more space in that strength of yours because it comes so easy and naturally to you that it might not come as naturally to other people. So, a lot of mirroring or listening or active listening or just living in that space a little bit further could you even more results than um, moving on quickly to another dimension.
I talked to one of my friends this morning about his current role, and he works for a corporation, big company, multinational company. He was off on holiday and came back, and he shared with me before that I asked him how is his year successful. He said, "Yeah, you know what? Like I've been on plenty of holidays, but I feel like I'm not really moving work wise. I'm kind of bored." He said, "But I came back from holiday. Everyone said we really missed you. You're so important here. How much value you're adding." And it's a similar piece here that he's at a place where it's so easy for him. He's bored by it. He's not being challenged. Yet everyone sees his what he's doing, what his contribution is huge, and that's something that could be. He's in a place where he wants to leave there or wants to move on to the next role, at least, and that like will cause a big problem where he is because of how much he's valued. And so it should be rather than pulling each other apart, it should be pulling each other together. So
Mm.
could you lean into the strength that you've got to create more leverage? Because what's coming really easy to him, others are seeing that it can't happen. So how can we combine those two to make it better rather than moving away from and restarting?
Mm.
Go to the next level rather than starting again.
Right. Yeah, and leveraging people in your life too. Like, who are the key players in what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, where could you go, or who? It's the who, not how, right?
Yeah, and so if I think about these top three in one go, because it's important to look at them at them individually to explain what they are, but ultimately it's all me together. And so my mind is thinking about, okay, taking action first. I got loads of ways I can see that I could get things done. I know that people is really important in order to for me overall, but I know there's I've got so much leverage when it comes to people that I can create better relationships such that I can have someone else that loves the structure do the structure so I can make things more repeatable for me. And what's my interpretation right now of the external world for me and why I can leverage what's there.
Mm. Bingo. Shall we jump to internal?
Let's.
First thing that sticks out to me about your internal world, coach, is the amount of clarity that you have down there. It's quite common, um, it's quite normal to have higher clarities in your external world. So you have a bit of fluctuation. There's a blue and a red, so real large, excellent, and a very good. You have green all the way across the board. So ability to see your internal world clearly, which is a huge strength of yours. And then, yeah, some more swinging biases. So you're definitely leading with the self-direction. There's a definition at the bottom there that I'll read real quick. So self-direction is your ability and desire to live out goals, principles, and values. This is your idea on how you should bend the rules by which you govern yourself. All right, so the higher I see a circle on here, you're maybe less willing to bend those rules. So super committed, so committed that there is a staunch, like you're planted in the ground with where you're going, huge strength of yours, right? That's a source of success because you know where you're headed. There's just also a little flag there with like, hey, just maybe be open to another way to get there, or another path that might hit you along the way that you may miss because you're so staunchly in the ground with what you've already decided is best for you.
And I may say, if I was doing it for someone else as well, that clarity is there's a lot of clarity. It's not the clearest it could get to, but it's 80% or so clarity, which means that most things that that person, or in this case me, would see, I would probably go, well, I know that already. And so it's probably harder to push out of what I believe to be true because the clarity is pretty high. And that's an interesting distinction to make for myself there.
Yeah, there's a distinction further on in the mind scan. If you get into the next sections, highlight your strengths and then your potential weaknesses. There's a line in there that says, when people intimate that you're going the wrong way or maybe another direction is good for you, make sure you give a little time and space because you're going to need to think through it to understand where they're coming from. And to your point, this is your leading dimension. This is where you operate here. You love to be here. And so if somebody's going to tell you that you're doing something differently than what you should, right? This is the dimension of should. Then you'd be like, what are you talking about? I've already thought about this. I've already thought this through. So it just says, just be aware, just maybe a little time and space to understand where they're coming from. Leverage that people dimension that you have so strong in your external, just see where they're coming from. Maybe give them the benefit of the doubt that they have your best interest at heart, and they have some different ways to look at it.
There's a lot of stuff here, Coach, and the contrast, of course, is the role awareness, because that is where I am right now. Right? So if self-direction is the future, what I'm committed to, and because of the difference here in the extremes, like I'm committed to where the future is, by default, you get the frustration of where you actually are. And so if I believe in where I'm going and what I can do, I know I could do it, but because I'm not there, there's a frustration that because I'm not there yet, like this it's not right or something wrong, right? So I'm not reaching my potential, as it says there in some of the language.
Yeah, and that's also the dimension of sweet spots, right? If that circle were higher, if it were at the midpoint or above, it's there's a sense of pride in how you identify yourself in what you do. So what might those things be that really give you juice? Like what are the actions or the roles that you play in helping other people achieve success and helping other people achieve fulfillment? Where are you at your best? Where do you just feel like you're untouchable? As maybe some good brainstorming exercise to imagine what that might be. And I think you already have a lot of clarity in that dimension, so it won't be difficult for you to come up with that. But as we start to prioritize that, I think some of that role frustration may go away and you may start enjoying and fun may be a part of the recipe of your success as you go. Not that it's not already. We have fun here.
Lots to be said here, of course, Coach. But I want to jump over to you. Maybe we'll save some of this stuff for yours here. I'm going to throw that on the screen as well.
Okay.
There we go, Coach Josh. And so you can see that this piece is the same. There's a lot here that's going to be overlapping, at least in the way it looks. And we'll go straight to Coach Josh's mind scan here. My goodness, Coach. This is super cool. Of course, the graph itself looks the same. And so I want to dive into what I see for Coach. I don't know I've ever seen 3 outstanding clarities in a mind scan graph before. So for context here, internal and external for Coach Josh, he's got a lot of clarity with empathy, a ton of clarity with the self-empathy, and same for his self-direction. Now, you can see in contrast, like you're way more balanced externally and internally than I am. And where your mind's to go first is this empathy piece for the relator. Again, you've got a ton of clarity. It's still fairly well balanced, but it's just about higher than the practical thinking. So for things to be good in your life, the people in your life have to be good. And you're going to be thinking about people first. But it's not so extreme. It's not like that you're always at the top. But in contrast to the others, it's still where you're going to think first. So it's still going to have people. and are going to see things really well. And again, like you share with me, it's easy for you to move through this because it's just so clear. It's like having French doors at the back of your house that someone just cleaned, and it's so clear, and you go to walk outside, and bang, you hit your head on it. It's so clear you don't. That's sometimes what I do with the level of clarity is just that you don't know what you don't know because it's just so obvious. You've done something for such a long time, you you tend to, I don't know what the psychological term for this is, but you don't value it as much
Mm.
because you just done it for so many times. Just like, okay, it's just the way it is. Ton of power for Coach Josh. But I want to draw attention to the relator internally, which is self empathy, which we didn't mention in mine here. It's such a key area. So self empathy, of course, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about yourself. To have an outstanding clarity here is very, very rare. Uh, Coach Josh really understands what he needs intrinsically just as a person. Now, we started our call today before we recorded, and you shared what your day was like, and you said that you've been very focused, almost ruthless on protecting your own time, a lesson you've learned over and over, same as here. But today you did it, and you really protected that time, even though other people that wanted to take it and there could have been value that you could have added. But this showing here how you really know what it is that you need, and you're acting like it, like you're in the doing of like going, oh, is this what I need as a person? This is what I need to feel good intrinsically, just for me, for myself, and I'm working on it. Like I'm holding the line. That's crazy, Coach. Like how does this piece feel for you?
Yeah, I will. I'll answer your question right after this. I noticed something in the results further down, and the strength says this means that you will naturally value your feelings and resist or stand against things and people that harm your personal and spiritual development, and pay attention to your views and opinions, and give attention to your own personal development. Um, yeah, I mean that is, I think about the way that you framed it up front with beliefs, feelings, actions, right? I'm paying more attention to my feelings than ever before because I've, I see the value in my own intuition. And when I listen to my body and what it's telling me, I tend to get desirable results. It feels good to me. So I want to keep doing that. And I want to stay away from things that don't feel so good. So my practice has been since, marrying that with building a practice, right? Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies of like, oh, I just want to feel good 100% of the time. But it's paying attention to the things in my business that make me feel good and prioritizing those things. So I ruthlessly defend my spare time. People try to get at it, or there's especially just after a holiday or something, there's needs or I need to meet with people. But when I sacrifice my own personal development in my own space, I tend to not be able to provide as much value as I can or could. And so that's why I've learned to prioritize this no matter what.
It's a beautiful thing, Coach, and it doesn't stop you being committed to your future, of course. And you can see that with the thinker over here in the self direction. Again, lots of clarity and a view as to what you could create, but not so extreme like perhaps it was for me, where it doesn't pull on you so hard that it hurts other areas. But what's most intriguing for me is this role awareness. So you can see this
Mm-hmm.
by far the place where you're least clear.
Yeah.
Balanced in terms of your attention to it, but the clarity around it is the biggest opportunity that I see. And so what this is suggesting is that you're focusing on one particular area of the roles that you play in your life, and opportunity to get clearer or zoom out more as to what could be your sweet spots of delivering on now, such that you could fulfill where you go in the future. But I'm really intrigued to get your thoughts on how this feels for you right now.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me because I'm in a bit of a transition with who my ideal clients are. So this is
Yeah.
somewhat natural. I'm having some of these questions with like, well, am I good at that? Or would people get value from that? Or would people value this from me? So, you know, the lack of clarity there, the smaller circle indicates that there's just some inconsistency. So there's places where I really know, and have that confidence that I can provide the value, but then maybe there's some doubt creeping in since this is somewhat of a new path for me with what that might look like. And that's where that lack of clarity is showing up here.
Yeah. The story really is in the internal world. look, I'm good with myself. I'm good at just being with myself and honoring myself and trusting myself. But it doesn't mean I don't want to create more, become more, be more, right? Because as soon as we stop, then we tend to either we're growing or we're dying, right? So we need to continue to move forward and being okay that I haven't figured out exactly where I'm going to spend my time. That's okay, right? It's in the process of figuring that stuff out. So you're giving yourself space to work on that because of the balance you've got in those two other areas and the clarity. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing, Coach.
the self direction's pulling me through. I have a great feeling of where I want to go. Just the roles that I'm playing along the way are not so clear yet, but they will get there. They'll get clear.
Yeah, and then from an external perspective, you can leverage uh, the empathy that you've got and to build even more great relationships. You've still got a lot of clarity and practical thinking and the structure, and so you can go there and you can see lots of ways to get things done. But you're not going to be rash in any of your actions because you've got some balance in the practical thinking. And it's similar to place to where I was in the structure, right? You see more ways to get done, but it's not gonna feel good to focus on the structure as good as it's gonna feel on the other two. The thing that really jumps out for me, because you're fairly well balanced in the middle here, is that because you can see the up and down well, that may give you more pause on taking action than if you were more extreme in one of the areas. So
Hmm.
what you might find from a practical perspective is if you spend more time trying to get the right thing rather than just the next thing. And I think you probably
Hmm.
know that about yourself anyway, but you've got like the internal drive to keep going. And okay, well, what, the question to maybe ask yourself to push yourself to the next place might be playing around with, well, what if I had to do this in half the time? Well, what if there was no risk associated? What would I do? And
Hmm.
that might be sub questions for where your mind's going to show up now is to jolt you to the next space. But goodness, coach, how cool was that? I think this is such an important episode to share, and um, be great to get some feedback as to what else you might want to see. And we're gonna leverage this and start to share and have even more value through the Profiles Coach podcast here. But what a pleasure!
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe some more Mindscan reviews coming in the future. I'm very excited about that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, take care. Until next time.
See you, Coach.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.